So, I am back with a new character, and it is a Dead is Dead character with Skyrim Requiem. This time I'm using not the alternative start, but I'm using Skyrim Unbound. Anyway, this is a voiceover. Obviously, it's all pre-recorded, and I splice it together in Adobe Premiere. But I had this really cool idea by watching these other Requiem players on YouTube. I had this really fun idea. I wanted to do an Argonian alchemist is basically the idea, and he's also kind of a coward. So the idea was to utilize the inborn traits of the Argonians with the swimming ability, and I just kind of got that idea that I could do a lot of alchemy if I went to the northern sea there, the Ghost Sea. You know, up by Dawnstar and Winterhold and Windhelm. So anyway, I spawned here in Carwaston, and what I kind of so this is heavily role-played, by the way, and it might be hard to explain it all, because I cut down about 12 hours. I cut into an hour here on video, and essentially what's happened here is that he's a fairly naive Argonian immigrant, obviously an alchemist, and well, the other trait I always take lockpicking, but also a thief. Not a thief in a immoral sense, more of a thief in the sense that
needs to get rid of those silver bloods.
I guess he just doesn't understand the same human concepts of ownership, and he sort of takes what he needs, and that's about it. It's not like he's greedy. It's not like he has maliciousness. In general, he's quite naive, as I say, and but he's very excited to be in Skyrim. He really wants to learn about the culture and learn about the interesting flowers and things like that. But anyway, he's run into this situation here where these thugs have taken over the mine where he was working, and he's suddenly in a pretty bad situation. So he decides, now's the time to leave, slip away, because and I would say that this is a fairly astute observation here, if we're role playing, to realize that hanging around when you're not able to work for the people who kind of brought you to Skyrim could end up being a pretty ugly situation. You could be forced to do things that you don't want to do, and become indebted to people you don't want to be indebted to. But at any rate, he's slipping away, and he kind of sees it as a good opportunity, but he's fairly aware of how very dangerous Skyrim is. I mean, to this point, he's been sheltered, brought to Skyrim as a migrant worker, as is common, in any era, really, when you had migrants going from one part of the world, be it in the real world or in a fantasy world here. You would have people like the Khajiits coming from elsewhere to trade, or any non-indigenous civilization would have various reasons to come, most of them economic. But the economic opportunity was more just one that he took as an opportunity to see the world. It's more of a tourism thing, and he is not aggressive, not hostile, not interested in attacking or fighting animals, creatures, humans, what have you. So the bulk of what you're about to see is collecting ingredients, which can be fairly boring, but I've spliced the video together pretty well, I think. But also just trying to survive and understand this harsh landscape that he's been put into. He's at once very curious about everything, like the ruins down there, but also has a very healthy fear. And, there's a fine line between cowardice and self-preservation, and I think, the two can go hand in hand. You can be smart about, you can be smart about not dying by being overly cautious. So I don't know if there's such a thing as being too cautious, especially in a dangerous environment like Skyrim. And the way that this video has been cut together really doesn't do justice the sheer amount of patience that this Argonian has, the trepidation that he has, the respect, the healthy respect that he has for the dangers that he faces. If I were to show you the 12 hours, you'd obviously be fairly bored, because he doesn't kill anything. That's not his purpose. His purpose is he wants to learn about the ingredients that he finds, the interesting flowers, completely different from Argonia. To meet the people who aren't trying to kill him. He's very interested in the Nords.
What do you need?
And just to further his almost scientific experiences. And I think that while he's not magical, he's very intrigued by magic, that is. So he would have an understanding, either through reading about the history of Skyrim as an educated Argonian, or either by reading about history or by conversation with others, would understand geography, would understand history, he would have an academic grasp of the situation. Where things can go awry is that he is extremely naive. And I think I've mentioned this once or twice, but you can be both fearful and careful, but you can also be naive, and that, I think that's almost the immigrant experience, really, is that your expectations or your understanding of something is based on not life experience, but something that you've read about. And then when you get somewhere, you're not coming in with the knowledge of having gone through that experience. You're coming in with a knowledge that's been passed down to you through literature or hearsay. So your choices aren't necessarily informed by wisdom. And so that's why when I say naivety, to a certain extent, the self-preservation is fed by genuine fear of the environment, but perhaps what he expects or thinks is going to happen, he's in for a rude awakening. And so this quite frightened him. He didn't quite know what happened at first. Was grievously wounded by a hunter's trap that had been carelessly left out, and at first he thought that he had been attacked, but then noticed the hunter sitting there, and that there was nothing attacking him, and he used his innate Argonian ability to regenerate the limb that was damaged there. But quite a frightening moment for him. And so, as I mentioned, Bar-I, as I've named him, and I've taken that directly from lore, so it's not like it's not like I have some, amazing sort of naming ability for Skyrim characters, or not Skyrim, but Elder Scrolls characters. I've sort of looked at the lore of some of these names that have been used in the past, and I'm trying to be faithful to that, especially when I'm doing a role-playing series. So at this point, he's collecting ingredients, sneaking around, and stumbles across this. And it's not that he's necessarily disturbed, very aware, tense, certainly frightened, but has a very logical, almost not a psychotic, but I would say a very logical interpretation of this. He's wary of potential danger, but evaluating the scene, he sees that there have been murders here, but that it would be senseless not to sort of
Here for work?
take what was left behind, just as though
We don't take
he might be more disturbed if those had been Argonians, but they weren't. And in his mind, it's almost as if he was stumbling across a dead animal and sort of looting, what would go to waste anyway. But at the same time, not wanting to hang around too much and be suspected of having done the deed himself. That would be very unfortunate. So obviously interacting with the locals here, not the friendliest of people. Feels pretty compelled to move on fairly quickly. There was a fellow there who was somewhat, if not rude, then quite hostile, and made it quite clear that outsiders aren't particularly welcomed. So he's quite fascinated by this bridge, and at this point is in quite good spirits. He's feeling at this point quite excited, quite fascinated by all of the fauna, or sorry, the flora.
Useful and chop up some firewood. There's a few coins in it for you.
Interacting with the
Hard to
locals
say.
who don't look
I just hope that
overly
clearly one
hostile,
side wants to keep the other.
or the
Damn
ones
right
that
it
look
has.
like they're
The
workers,
man's never
not
been so
soldiers,
high.
not the kind that
At
would
least not since I built the
cleave you
mill.
in two for saying the wrong thing.
Next time.
If you're looking for a room, you want the full.
Hmm?
And so a lot of this is just purely exploratory. Now, as I was saying about the thieving part, obviously this seems kind of bold, audacious type of behavior to do this in front of a soldier. But he's sort of a complicated fellow. I mean, he as I say, he wasn't doing this out of malice or any intention of making a fool of this this soldier, or trying to thieve from the inhabitants, but it's more like a very practical understanding that that he's recently lost his sole means of employment, doesn't have a lot of money, needs to acquire money for potentially food and shelter,
Seen some mean-spirited folk
and he's
past
certainly
lately.
not
Honest pay for honest work.
immune to honest work
Honest
either. I
pay
mean,
for honest work.
he was working in the mine there.
I grew up
He's
in a
picking
low-growth
vegetables for
When
the
I met
local
Michelle,
farmers,
I
and
knew this is
and,
the Imperial. They stated, and that's not
the
all.
laborer is
It
certainly
took a heap
worthy of his bread in this
course.
situation.
You ask if I'm worried. I'm terrified, if you want the truth of it. But I have to stay strong for my wife and children.
So we've got our first level here, and that point, all points are going to go into health, because that only makes sense, and sneaking is just of paramount importance. This is going to make it a whole lot easier to to avoid enemies. So the goal here is to head on over to the bigger city over here of Solitude. And he's sticking to, you know, the cliffs where he could make an escape from any sort of predators or enemies. So at any rate, the theft, because I think there's quite a bit of theft in the beginning of this playthrough. The theft is obviously not the point of the character. He is more interested in furthering his goals of learning about, as I say, alchemy, magic, the inhabitants of Skyrim, and that's about it. And he, as I say, doesn't get too hung up on the moral virtue. But on the other side, I think that he has a fairly good sense of morality where it pertains to murder or assault. He's not interested in hurting other people. I mean, here you can see that this mud crab chased him all the way from the river up to the main road here leading to Solitude, and is kind of relying on a guard to help him out. And the guard is not doing the best job surviving this fearsome battle with a mud crab. So anyway, spoiler alert, the mud crab dies. So, comes down to the docks, delighted to see another Argonian, but she's not too friendly here.
What is it? Dragons?
That was a little disappointing. He hasn't seen a lot of Argonians in Skyrim, and she just kind of said, you know, go and see my brother. So he's off to find her brother. Maybe he can find a friend in that one. So this is kind of a gruesome sight as he enters Solitude. There's seems to be a public execution going on. Doesn't really understand the context of it. And unfortunately, it's a little too late to talk to Rogvir.
Oceans, you should talk to my aunt. I still can't believe he knew what he was doing when he opened that gate.
There
You're passing
is
through Solitude?
Jari
You're
Ra,
looking to make some
the
easy
brother
gold.
that he wanted to speak to.
My sister DiD and I are treasure
So here
hunters.
he says,
we like to collect things.
I'm not a thief. I'm not a thief. I don't want to
we
do
just
anything
take
wrong.
what
But
we're
that's more
With the
showmanship for
the Solitude
you know,
lighthouse
his fellow
will be guiding
Argonian. He
it
doesn't
in.
want to look
But
like
if-
he's
what
taking
an
advantage of those people, or
Yes, if someone were to
or
put
say
out
the wrong
lighthouse
thing here
fire,
to
then
to
meet me
to
on
his
the
peer.
docks afterwards,
And he's
I
come
could
away
certainly direct them to
wanting
that
very
place.
much to do something nice for Jari Ra, and you know, that may ultimately prove to be a mistake, but in his mind, this fellow certainly knows his way around Skyrim, seems to know what he's doing, and here's where the naivety comes in a bit. He's quite sure that he should be doing what he's told in this situation. He certainly can imagine a fellow Argonian steering him wrong in a foreign country here, or a foreign land. So we've got the second level of stealth here. We've grinded our way to level 3 and quickly to level 4 as well.
Yes? Speak quickly.
So there is just a hell of a lot of exploration that
Need
goes on
something?
here in Solitude, and Bar-Eye is making sure that he sees all of it. And there isn't time enough
Do you have
to show
business
you
with the
everything
court?
that he sees. Goes into every
Here,
house, talks
this
to
is
every
for you.
person.
You mean
You know, we're just skipping
Yeah.
that.
I don't think it's worth our time.
He's having quite a good time
That was
exploring
over
Solitude.
5. Of course. Maybe you'll pay. She may. You do well. That remains. But we must. Should they accept her
So he's
rule,
found out about
we
some sort of
will have
nefarious
peace.
plot here
Be quick.
in Wolf
I
Skull
have little
Cave, but
patience
certainly
for
not
Monday.
something that he
I
could
can teach
take
you,
care of.
but I won't be held responsible
At this
for what
point,
you do with the knowledge.
he's getting some training in magic. He's not interested in destruction, but he is learning about magic, and
I have
that's
so
something
very
that's
many
very
ways to deal with
attractive.
people. I can teach you, but I won't be held responsible for what you do with the
So
knowledge.
the way that I'm role playing this exchange is not so much. Yes, he's learning about destructive.
You're trying my pain. I can
magic,
teach you, but I won't be held
but
responsible for what you do with
I
the
tend to
knowledge.
believe that he's more receiving advice and training
I have no time or
in
patience
what
for
it
a
takes to
student.
be
So, you wish to master the
to be
arcana?
proficient in all types of magic, and that will make him more able to learn non-harmful spells when the time comes. He'll be more knowledgeable about such things, more open to. It won't be his first pony ride, is what I'm saying. When he finally learns his first spell, which happens to be Blur. So obviously the upkeep cost on this is nowhere near affordable at this juncture, but it's just something nice to have, to get started in illusion and start working his way along the illusion tree. And of course alteration for mage armor and candlelight, which later becomes probably the single most important spell ever that has ever been taken in Skyrim. So this one, just getting a few illusion spells and doing some more grinding on alchemy, learning quite a bit about all of the ingredients he's picked up, having a little rest for the night,
Be
going
quick.
back,
I have little patience for
talking
I
to
can teach
Sybil,
you, but I
getting
won't be
some
held
more training in
responsible for what you
magic.
do with the knowledge.
And so there's a bit of this that happens back and forth, on and off, over a period of hours and days.
Welcome to the Bard's College.
Kind of stops by,
All-
reads all the
you should be-
books
when
at the
possible,
Bard's
we-
College, finds
Alice,
it fascinating,
to convince
loves
her, Yes.
all of the
I
things he can
need
read
you to
about and learn
retrieve
about, and
not
the
much, to be
music, and
honest.
that's just pure tourism, just fun. And so, yes, without any combat whatsoever, he's slowly
Be quick. I have little patience
Leveling
for
up.
I can teach you,
Learning
but I
about
won't be held
magic, learning about
responsible for what you
alchemy.
do with the knowledge.
and just basically a constant student. Now at this time he departs Solitude. He's been there for a couple days, maybe a week, but he's quite interested in making his way towards the College of Winterhold, which he's now heard about, and that is a very high level goal for him now. He could certainly stay in Solitude where it's safe and continue to work on his alchemy, but suddenly the College of Winterhold is extremely appealing to him, where not just alchemy but all of the various studies in magic can take place. This is a really kind of pivotal moment here comes across this great orcish sword by chance. It's quite heavy, but he feels he might be able to bring it along. Maybe he can sell it later. And I find it amazing how that little chance occurrence paid off for him. So almost runs into a saber cat there. That was very dangerous. Sneaks around the saber cat and heads down to the sea. And he has a yearning for the sea. He is very much looking forward to swimming in safety in his own element, so to speak. Argonians are very at home in the water, and he's quite excited about the prospect of looking at the various types of alchemical ingredients that he can find here in the water, in the ocean. But also quite concerned about these wolves that he's seeing. So there were a few threats on the way to Dawnstar, but for the most part, nothing too frightening. I mean, he's able to just swim at his leisure, pick up pearls from clamshells, pick up barnacles, nirnroot, all sorts of really interesting ingredients, and nothing thus far has really curtailed any of his plans. So here he's come across the lighthouse that his Argonian friend told him about. And he has just a slight hesitation here, a bit of a sense of foreboding, a sense that maybe what he's doing isn't right, but he goes ahead with it anyway, and let's just say that is the first really immoral, mistake that he's made, was trusting this fellow Argonian who led him quite astray in that decision. But he's not headed back to Solitude just now. He's decided to push on, but he felt doing the favor was enough, and he doesn't quite even understand the consequences or ramifications of his actions at this point. He was just following through on a promise that he had made, if not to Jari, but to himself. So here he's coming to a situation with a slaughterfish here and doesn't know what to do. Remembers that he actually has this sword that he doesn't know how to use, but is certainly willing to wave it threateningly at the fish and see what happens. He swings it quite feebly, misses, and with great surprise, kills the fish. By no means does he feel bad about this. I mean, it's only a fish, but he's quite surprised that he was able to do that. It doesn't imbue any sense of deep confidence in or delusions that he's a warrior, but he suddenly feels more confident in his ability to navigate these waters, especially considering he's only come across this one type of hostile enemy inside the water. And there's another one. So it would be an understatement to say that he spent quite a great deal of time exploring this majestic, beautiful underwater landscape. Spent many, many, many hours wandering around and searching for pearls and as you can see, becoming quite overburdened with all of the bounty that he finds. So it's back to the alchemy table. And certainly exploring all of the finer aspects of Dawnstar, finding some very premium alchemical ingredients. You can say that word. Here's a quite weird, strange, scary moment. So suddenly feels some very dangerous sharp claws on his back, and for whatever reason a wolf had chosen that exact moment inside of the town to attack and hurt him. Don't know where the wolf came from, but he's quite hurt by it, quite injured by the attack. So Barai visits the local smith, and is certainly inspired by that, wants to learn a little bit about crafting. Is quite amateurish about it, but I think that fits in with his nature of wanting to learn, even if he is quite inept in the beginning at working with steel. He's just kind of getting the ball rolling in that direction, still focusing quite heavily on alchemy. Poison's not quite interested. So at this point, he's carrying quite a bit of coin around and needs a place to store some of it, so he decides to hide some of it where he thinks it might be safe. Who knows? More exploration here of ingredients, and once again another troublesome character comes up, and he handles it like a champ, as usual. Comes across a tent, finds some flowers and an amulet of Mara inside. Note that he's quite wary about any dangers before he enters any situation. Very cautious. And here, again, quite pleased to find Deacus, a fellow Argonian. Not much of a conversationalist, as you can tell, but he feels duty-bound to not take anything from his friend and Argonian distant relative. You wouldn't dream of stealing from him. And again, more fun with solderfish. And back to town to learn more about alchemy. So thus begins sort of the big mistake, the biggest mistake of his entire life. The sun's setting. It's time to go to bed. But he thinks, I'm just going to explore a little bit more before the sun goes down. Maybe I can even make it to the College of Winterhold. And obviously this, you can chalk this up again to naivety. It's just a really, really bad idea to head out as the sun is setting. So he's moving along. Sees a camp. Looks like a friendly camp. Could be hunters or... No, that doesn't look friendly. Some pretty scary moments here for sure. Realizing that it's not just the slaughterfish and the wolves that can be unfriendly in Skyrim. And now you can see still light out, but it's getting quite cold. Just kind of looking ahead to what sort of goals he might have with alchemy. And evasion. Evasion might help. Survivability, that's for sure. And restoration? Could be, but it's probably smarter to leave a perk available. So it's cold, it's getting dark, but you know, he keeps stumbling across interesting things like this, like these 3 shipwrecks. Interesting things. He's not too far from Dawn's Story. It's not like he can't go back. And besides, he's almost at Winterhold, right? Except for those 2 wolves barring his way. He'll have to find another way around. He can look up and see the Shrine of Azura. He knows that the College of Winterhold can't be far from there. Now he's cold, but I mean, as an Argonian, he's quite used to weathering the elements, to weathering the cold of the water, and certainly has adapted to blocking some of that out. So he's close to the college here, but he can see it's way up on a cliff, and he was not anticipating that. And it's getting quite cold, quite dark. And at this point, you might say that he's concerned. There is some definite concern here, but at the same time, he's hopeful that he's close to being able to find a couloir, a path up. You know, sort of this slope here that will lead right to Winterhold and the warmth and safety of the college. So he feels as though he's close, and he's still picking up ingredients. So he's not panicking. He's just concerned that it is getting a little bit dark and cold. Especially with this blinding snowstorm. So he looks up, sees that the sky is clear, or not clear, but still light. All he has to do is get out of this little gully here. Just get up to the top, and why, there's even the Shrine of Azure up there. He can't be far now. He'll be at an inn in another hour, tops. Sees a little fox there. If the fox is fine, there can't be any danger. But, oh, the fox just ran away. Oh, that's not good. That's not good. So this isn't even a matter of fight or flight. This is sheer flight. This is panic. Now this is sheer panic. Now it's dark. It's freezing cold. There is an enormous, terrifying monster chasing him. And his only avenue to safety has just been cut off. He's just searching for a way to get out of this frightening situation now. He really has lost his sense of direction. He can only see shadows. He knows there's danger, but he can't see it. And there's a wolf. Two wolves. Two wolves there stalking him, trying to get him in the water. Only the fact that he can swim at this point is saving his life. Stuck, treading water in the ocean, in a blizzard, with minimal light, near pitch blackness, and things are looking pretty grim. And he's being stalked. Everywhere he goes, he's being stalked. The line between life and death here is as fine as it gets. I mean, where does he go? Does he flee towards the troll? Does he go towards the wolves? And his light's gone out. His light's gone out, and he has no idea what he'll find when he lights it again. So he decides clearly he's not going to make it to the College of Winterhold. There's no way, and going back to Dawnstar doesn't seem an option either. He just figures he's got to start swimming along the northern coast and make his way south to Windhelm. And Windhelm is a place where he's heard is very welcoming towards Argonians. It's a place where he's heard that many Argonians have been welcomed there. They have jobs there. And he feels like that'll be a great consolation prize, if you can get there. I mean, things look extremely grim at the moment, but perhaps he could simply swim all the way there. Perhaps he could go around this way. There seem to be some type of ruins here. As he's making his way towards them and looks up, there's some sort of figure walking along the top of the ramparts there, and that figure does not look human. Does not look like a humanoid creature. So I mean, the sun went down sometime around 8, and obviously I can't show you everything, but this is hours and hours and hours of crawling in the darkness, crawling inches forward, 1 inch forward, 2 inches back, just constantly concerned that something's going to jump out at him at any moment. Just a feeling of panic, claustrophobia, and maybe the only thing that's keeping him from really being beset by hopelessness and hypothermia is the fact that the adrenaline of feeling that he's under constant threat, constant attack. I think this type of bleakness really brings out some character, some deep inborn instinct and desire to survive and to live. At this point, he doesn't explore clams anymore or pick up ingredients. It's just pure survival. Stumbling in the dark. This is by far the biggest nightmare experience that he's ever had. The most terrifying, frightening, and there's more wolves stalking him on the edge of the ocean. And his only recourse is to swim aimlessly, hoping that he'll reach some form of temporary safety where he can regroup, collect his thoughts, collect his courage. But let's face it, most of his actions are driven by survival instinct, panic. Terror. So at this point he's been swimming many, many hours, quite exhausted, trying desperately to find the way to Windhelm. And he only has a vague inkling of where it might be. The only reason he hasn't been perhaps attacked and killed yet by an animal is that they've given him some warning threat when he gets too close. Otherwise he wouldn't even know they were there until it was too late. The howling of the wolves, the roaring of the snow bears, And they're a human enemy. A bandit calls out in the night, alerted by his mage light spell. It seems as though no matter where he turns, no matter where he goes, what he does, he's attacked. Even in the water where he feels safe, now he's being attacked by these vicious fish. And though the sword could never stop a real predator, he just pulls out the sword just to feel a little bit safer. Even as a wolf forces him back into the darkness. I don't really think that the sense of claustrophobia can be overstated. After hours and hours and hours of being beset by this blizzard, the darkness, it just overwhelms the senses. So at this point, saving that perk for restoration seems like a pretty good plan. Two, 3 steps, stop. 2, 3 steps, stop. And that's just the way he's going to get to Windhelm, is just to take it slowly. So he feels he's pretty close now. I mean, he's not sure, but just based on what he knows about the geography, he feels that he's pretty close. Just there, he gets attacked by another slaughterfish, but he's pretty sure he can outswim it. Just needs to get to those Windhelm docks, where he'll be welcomed by all of the many Argonians that are there already. It's really just this faint hope that he's clinging to after all these hours in the darkness. I can almost see it now. I can almost see his salvation. So close. Of course, as in every time that he's ever come close to being saved, it seems that there's some sort of enemy to thwart him. It's certainly dispiriting. It's dispiriting for that to happen over and over and over again. He sees a light. So our Argonian hero sees a light and figures it might be a friendly light. Sort of makes his way towards this light. Might be somebody who could protect him long enough that he could get to freedom, to safety, that this nightmare could be over. And all of a sudden he finds himself under a vicious attack and is pretty much near death. He's able to chug a potion and just with all of his might use his racial ability to regenerate all of his health with almost all of his remaining energies and abilities. And you can see the ice spikes missing him by the narrowest of margins as he once again flees out to sea. Thwarted, perhaps only dozens of meters from the Windhelm docks. Or feet, whatever you want to use. Meters, feet. And he was close though. So he spends a few hours just basically paralyzed, but sort of paralyzed, and decides he just has to make a break for it. It's just a matter of either making it or dying trying, or running as hard as he can, or swimming, and that's what he does. He just ignores the threats and just goes. The time for sneaking is over. It's just a matter of using all of his remaining strength just to make it to a place where he isn't going to be stalked, where he isn't going to have to spend every last mental energy on surviving. And it's just with the greatest of relief, perhaps the greatest relief he's felt in his entire life, that he sees the underside of a boat and realizes that he's finally made it. This ridiculous ordeal is almost over. That he somehow didn't die is just too much to really take in. So he overhears a bit of this discussion here, and obviously isn't too impressed by it because he's too tired to really soak it in. He just makes for what looks like an inn, goes inside, and just feels just a burst of warmth, the first warmth that he's felt in hours and hours and hours. And the first thing he does is just collapse into this chair. So that was quite an epic ride, and he survived. Dead is dead, no second chances, somehow made it. Didn't have to kill anything but slaughterfish, but obviously he's learned some pretty valuable lessons here. Needs to be more prepared in the future, and can't take anything for granted, and might even need a companion at this point to help him in his future endeavors. But I think he's going to hang out here for quite a while. So.
The Stormcloaks.